It's been a while since I looked at the WeCreat lasers. The last one I reviewed was the Vision 40 watt, and while the machine itself was pretty great, the optional fume extractor they sent with it really wasn't up to the job. So when WeCreat reached out and offered to send over the Vision 40 watt's newer, bigger sibling, the Vision Pro 45 watt, along with some optional accessories including the new AirGuard Ultra fume extractor, I figured it was time to take another look and see just how far things have come. In this video, we're going to go through the machine, take a look at how it's built, and get a feel for the software and workflow. Then we'll run through a bunch of real projects: wood engraving and cutting, a rotary engraving on a tumbler, slate engraving, anodized aluminum cards, stainless steel, and even a bit of plastic. And because laser cutting can sometimes create a fair bit of smoke, we'll also see how well the AirGuard Ultra handles everything indoors. And we'll start right after this. Hello 3D printing friends, and welcome back. So WeCreat sent over this Vision Pro 45 watt laser cutter and engraver along with a couple of optional accessories: the rotary accessory, the 2 watt IR module, and the AirGuard Ultra fume extractor. They sent this over free of charge, but they have no say in what I say about it. I showed the Vision 40 watt on the channel about a year ago and really liked it. The Vision Pro 45 watt is basically that machine's bigger, more capable sibling. The original had a pretty good sized work area, and the Vision Pro's is even larger. The Pro also brings a stronger diode laser to the table, so you can tackle thicker cuts and more demanding projects. A lot of the things I liked about the original are still here. The whole top of the machine still raises and lowers for autofocus. There's still an HD camera centered inside the lid so you can see the work area and place your designs accurately. You still get an air assist pump to help clear smoke during cutting and engraving, which should give you cleaner results. The Make It software is up to version 3 now, and the Vision Pro can work over Wi-Fi or directly over USB. And this time around, WeCreat included a much wider selection of starter materials. I always like it when companies do that because it gives you a chance to try the laser on different materials right out of the box. With that out of the way, let's take a closer look at the software and how you work with the Vision Pro. First up, the Make It app. That's the software the Vision Pro uses for the whole workflow. WeCreat says the Vision Pro is compatible with Lightburn, which is great if you're already comfortable with it. But for this video, I'm sticking to the software that was written for the machine. If you don't have Make It yet, you can download the newest version from WeCreat's site. I'm planning to use the Vision Pro over Wi-Fi. This is optional, but my computer's far enough away from the laser that using USB all the time would be annoying. To set up Wi-Fi, you connect the laser to your computer with a USB cable one time, so the Make It app can send over your network name and password. It only takes a moment, and after that, the Vision Pro connects to your Wi-Fi network and you're good to go. Device detection over Wi-Fi has been solid. It usually takes a couple of seconds for the Vision Pro to appear, but it's been reliable every time I've used it. Now about the interface. Make It uses a tabbed layout. The Discover tab is where you browse WeCreat's project catalog, and My Stuff is where your bookmarked projects live. Any open project gets its own tab, so switching between them is easy. You can break a project into multiple canvases, which are like separate sheets of material. If a project uses multiple colors of pre-painted plywood, for example, you can keep everything for the red sheet on one canvas and everything for the white sheet on another. Each canvas can have its own layers too, which lets you organize engraving and cutting steps and control the order they run in. The material previews are also helpful. These show test arrays that WeCreat has already run, so you can see recommended speed and power settings for different materials. For some materials, I like doing my own test array, but the built-in previews give you a good starting point. As for the tools, the clip art library is useful, but has some duplication, and it resets to the top of the list every time you open it, which means a lot of scrolling if you're browsing for multiple elements. The AI image generator works pretty well too. The Jigsaw pattern generator is great. You set the size, number of rows and columns, and it builds a clean puzzle outline. And the text tool has a huge number of fonts, so being able to search and bookmark your favorites is really helpful. There are two main workflows. One is choosing a project from the Discover tab and clicking Make It to open it. The downside is that most catalog projects don't include instructions, so you're left to figure out assembly or painting yourself. The other workflow is to start from scratch by clicking the plus button and choosing New Project. From there, you can import images or use the drawing tools, clip art, text, or AI generator to design something new. When you're done, you load your material, click Preview to grab an image from the camera, position your design, run autofocus, and send the job to the Vision Pro. Then you press the button on the front to start it. And as always with lasers, keep an eye on it while it's running. And that's the general workflow in Make It. Once you get used to it, it's pretty straightforward. Now I want to show you some projects I made with the Vision Pro. These involve engraving and cutting all kinds of materials, and laser cutting can produce anything from a light wisp of smoke to a whole lot of it. If you're working indoors and can't vent out a window, a good fume extractor is kind of a requirement. In my last Vision 40-watt video, the older WeCreat fume extractor just wasn't strong enough, and I had to vent everything outside. This time though, I'm using WeCreat's AirGuard Ultra. So as we go through these projects, stick around, and we'll see how well it handled the smoke this time around. For the first project, I kept things simple and followed the suggestion from the user manual. It walks you through a basic engraving just to make sure the computer and the Vision Pro are talking to each other. The sample piece is just plain 3mm basswood plywood, and all you're doing is engraving the word hello on the back of it. When I clicked autofocus, the Vision Pro raised and lowered the top half of the enclosure to focus, which is always fun to watch. Then I sent the job to the laser and pressed the button on the front of it. The fan spun up, the air assist kicked in, and off it went. It's a little loud when everything's running at once, but that's pretty normal for a laser of this size. The engraving seemed to land exactly where I expected, and the lines came out crisp. And that's it. It says hello, which means the laser works, so we're off to a good start. After the hello test, I tried something a little more personal, engraving and cutting out my circular BV3D logo on a piece of 3mm basswood. My first attempt didn't look great. The logo I used had a lot of gradients, and with the settings I picked, those subtle tones all blended together. The engraving came out muddy and kind of smudged looking. So I switched to a clean black and white line art version of the logo, and that made a huge difference. The engraving came out much sharper. I actually ran that job twice, and both versions picked up a bit of smoke staining from the air assist blowing debris across the surface. I lightly sanded one of them to show that a quick pass with sandpaper takes it right off. The only real issue I ran into is alignment. In the software, the engraved logo and the circular cut path are perfectly centered with each other. I selected both objects, centered them horizontally and vertically, and the preview looked perfect. But on the actual finished piece, the engraving is shifted slightly to the right. It's consistent too. The horizontal offset seems to happen every time. I'm not sure yet if that's a bug in the software or something I need to tweak in the settings. But apart from that, the Vision Pro engraved and cut the piece cleanly, and the finished logo popped right out of the plywood without any effort. Another project I made with the Vision Pro was a set of custom slate coasters for the Zurich Violin Studio. Slate engraves beautifully, and the logo really pops against the dark surface. These are 4-inch square coasters, and the engraving only goes a tiny bit into the material, just enough to turn the slate light gray where the laser hits. It takes just a single pass, and slate barely makes any smoke at all, so it's a clean and easy material to engrave. After the coasters were finished, I rinsed them in the kitchen sink, dried them off, and they were good to go. I ran the first coaster as a test, liked how it came out, and then did the remaining 3 with the same settings. Since slate is so dark, I dropped a light-colored background behind the coasters so they would show up clearly in the Make It software. I also wanted to try the Smart Fill feature, which is supposed to auto-align a design across multiple matching objects in the bed, but it turns out Smart Fill doesn't work with black objects, and these coasters are definitely close to black, so I lined up the designs manually. Even so, it didn't take long, and all 4 came out looking great. I also made a little coaster caddy. It's a free model I found online, and the piece is cut perfectly. In the same job, I engraved the Violin Studio logo onto the bottom panel, then the laser cut everything out. The caddy goes together really well. There was one small bit of weirdness during the cutting pass, though. The laser would cut part of a tab at the bottom of the panel, then jump up and cut part of a tab at the top, and just keep alternating like that. I would have expected it to follow a single continuous cut path, but I think it might have something to do with how the file's vectors were defined. It didn't cause any problems, but it did add a little bit of time to the cut. After I assembled the coaster caddy, I noticed a few tiny smoke smudges on the bottom panel where the tabs were. If I'd noticed before putting it together, I'd have hit those spots with sandpaper since they're easy to clean up. But once everything was glued, that ship had sailed. All in all, it came together quickly, and the slate and wood combination makes the whole set feel really nice. Next up, I wanted to make a wooden jigsaw puzzle by engraving an image and then cutting the puzzle pieces out. I started with this horses playing people shoes picture that a friend sent me. In color, it looks fine, but once I tried to engrave it in grayscale, it fell completely flat. It didn't have enough contrast, so the engraving came out dull and washed out. So I switched gears and tried the AI image generator built into the Make It app. There was an existing prompt that created a really nice black and white drawing of a bear, so I asked it for kittens instead. The result looked great, so I placed it in the project and used the toolbox to generate a jigsaw cut pattern sized to match the artwork. You specify the overall size of the puzzle, how many rows and column pieces, and stuff like that. Fewer rows and columns means larger puzzle pieces. I lined up the cut pattern and the artwork and sent the combined job to the Vision Pro. The engraving went first, and that part barely made any smoke, but the cutting stage made a pretty good amount. In just half an hour, I had a finished 6-inch wooden puzzle. The engraving came out crisp and detailed, and the cuts are super clean. Since we're almost into December, I also did one more wood cutting project with the 45-watt module, a little Christmas Village Standee from the WeCreat project catalog. It uses 2 sheets of basswood plywood. The first sheet took about 10 minutes to cut, and the second one took almost 20, so right around half an hour for the full set of pieces. This project is all cutting and no engraving, so it makes a steady stream of smoke the entire time. Once everything was cut out, it was time to glue it together. The base is made from 2 stacked pieces that get laminated together, and then the individual trees, houses, and Santa's sleigh all get glued into place. The finished Standee is about 11.5 inches wide, 2 inches deep, and 5.5 inches tall. The scene is built in 3 layers. Trees in the back, houses in the middle, and Santa's sleigh up front. It has a nice sense of depth to it. If you wanted to turn this into a fun family activity, you could have the kids paint the pieces before assembly. It's a simple project, but the layered look makes it a fun little decoration for the holidays. I also wanted to try out the Rotary attachment, so I engraved a 20-ounce powder-coated stainless steel tumbler. This one has a dark blue finish, so the laser blasts off the paint and leaves the bare metal showing through. The tumbler has a tapered shape with a smaller diameter at the bottom than at the top, and that did affect the engraving a little. I couldn't find a Christmas tumbler design in the Make It project catalog, and I didn't see anything online that I really liked, so I ended up making my own in the software. I used some of the included clip art to build the design. A row of Christmas ornaments around the top, Merry Christmas in a fancy script font with a Christmas tree under it, and a row of snowflakes around the bottom. Alignment in the Make It software was straightforward, and the camera preview helped me size and position everything so the design would wrap all the way around. The engraving came out nice and sharp, and like I found with most powder-coated tumblers, it needed a little cleanup afterward with dish soap and a magic eraser. The only real issue was that taper I mentioned earlier. Since the bottom is narrower, the snowflakes around the lower section ended up taller and skinnier than intended. Now that I know that happens, I can compensate for it next time by squishing that part of the design in the software before engraving. Despite that, I think it came out pretty good. I don't know about your house, but in mine, multi-gang switch plates can sometimes be a total guessing game. You'd think the switch closest to the door would control the back porch light, but nope. In my case, that one turns on the light over the little dining table in the kitchen. So with the 2-watt IR module, I finally fixed it. The IR head can mark plastic and leave a clean, medium gray label, so I grabbed the switch plate, taped it to a sheet of basswood to keep it from shifting around, and used the text tool in Make It to add labels for each switch. The whole job took less than a minute, and there was no smoke, no odor, no cleanup. That engraved text came out sharp and consistent, and now one switch says porch and the other says dining, so you know exactly which one does what without the old flip and pray routine. Another project I tried with the 2-watt IR module was engraving on thin metal business cards. These are anodized aluminum cards, and the pack I bought came with 5 different colors. I used a mix of the blue ones and the black ones. I engraved both sides of each card. The front has my BV3D logo and Hello 3D Printing Friends, and the back has contact info and social links. They turned out really nice. For this one, I marked the 6 card positions on a sheet of basswood before placing anything down. That way, after flipping the cards, I could put them right back where they needed to go for the second pass. The IR module is precise, but it's not fast, and there's a lot more surface area here than on the light switch plate, so this job takes a while. A full set of 6 cards takes roughly an hour per side. As the laser runs, you can see a bright spot where the beam hits the anodized surface, and the marks come out a crisp white. I expected it to reveal the bare metal, but the white contrast looks great. Both the blue and black cards engraved equally well, and when everything was done, all they needed was a quick wipe to remove a bit of powdery dust. Once that was gone, the cards looked fantastic. For my final IR module project, I engraved the little credit card-sized stainless steel bottle opener that came in the sample materials pack. It has a brushed finish, so it's a great test piece for showing how well the IR module marks stainless steel. I started with a material test array running speeds from 10 to 300 millimeters per second and power from 10 to 100%. 10 millimeters per second at full power gave me a nice dark gray mark, but I wanted it just a little darker. So for the real engraving, I slowed it down even more to 5 millimeters per second. I put it directly on the laser bed, and since it's silver, it showed up well enough in the camera preview that I didn't need to put it on a background sheet this time. Because of the slow speed, the engraving took about an hour, but the result was worth it. At the faster test speeds, the laser mark is smooth and you can't really feel it. But at the slower 5 millimeters per second, the mark is actually raised and textured, which gives the opener a nice tactile feel. Remember that thing with the 45-watt laser where the engraving ended up shifted about 1 millimeter to the right compared to what I saw on screen? That happened here too. I also think it happened with the business cards, but it's just not as noticeable there. So those basswood cuts looked great, but they also made plenty of smoke. And since I'm not trying to turn my office into a campfire simulator, this is the perfect time to talk about the AirGuard Ultra and how well it handled all of that. I've had it sitting under the same table I keep the Vision Pro on, and it connects to the laser with a flexible hose. One end clamps onto the exhaust port on the back of the Vision Pro, and the other end connects to an inlet on the back of the extractor. It runs independently from the laser, so you do have to turn it on separately, and it has 3 fan speeds. On the higher settings, it's loud, but not too annoying. Think white noise generator. It's mostly a low whooshing sound. If you saw my earlier video on the Vision 40-watt, you might remember that the original WeCreat fume extractor really wasn't up to the task. It was supposed to suck out the smoke and odor, but instead it just sort of sucked. It didn't move enough air, and it didn't filter out the smell very well. I ended up venting everything out a window. The AirGuard Ultra is way, way better. During all of the 45-watt basswood cuts, I didn't see any smoke leaking out of the laser, and I didn't smell anything in the room at all until I opened the lid to remove the parts. Even then, the little bit of odor was mostly coming from the pieces themselves. Slate engraving and the IR engraving jobs barely make any smoke to begin with, and the extractor handled those without any trouble. The unit itself looks nice too. It has a plastic shell and a more polished, home-friendly look compared to the old metal solder fume extractor that came with the Vision 40-watt. This one actually feels purpose-built for the job. So overall, I've had a really good experience with the WeCreat Vision 45-watt. It has a few quirks, the biggest one being that alignment issue where the engraving ends up offset by about 1 millimeter. But aside from that, it's been solid. The cut quality is great, and the engraving detail is really nice, especially when you stick to clean line art. I do need to spend more time learning how to prep color images for engraving, because going from color to grayscale takes a little more work. You have to dial in the brightness and contrast to get the best results. The workflow in the Make It software is generally smooth, and there are a ton of fonts to choose from. The autofocus feature is neat to watch, with the whole top of the machine raising and lowering to set the focus. Camera accuracy seems good, and all of my cuts lined up exactly where I placed them. Engravings, like I said, do have a small issue. They consistently come out about 1 millimeter to the right of the preview. It's not a huge shift, but it's something I noticed across several projects. But I think the AirGuard Ultra might be my favorite part of the whole setup, because it means I don't have to vent the laser outside anymore. There are a couple of things I'd like to see WeCreat improve. The Discover tab in the Make It app has plenty of project ideas, and you can browse them for free, but the project descriptions are sometimes sparse. Being able to peek inside and actually look through one would be helpful, but to do so requires a WeCreat membership. To be fair, your purchase of the Vision Pro includes a membership, but I don't know how long it lasts. Without one though, opening a project would cost $1. And I'd also like to see SmartFill work with dark materials when you're using a light background. As for who this machine is for, I think it's aimed mostly at hobbyists and maybe small craft businesses. Pretty much anyone who wants to get a feel for what they can make, sell, or gift with a laser. It's not the cheapest option out there, but as a fully enclosed system, and especially with the AirGuard Ultra, I think it's one of the safer options for indoor use. I'll definitely be using it to make gifts for family members and probably some personalized things for friends and coworkers too. If you're curious about the different Vision Pro bundles, I've got a link to the Amazon listing in the description. It'll show you all the available options in one place, and Amazon's return policy makes it a pretty low-stress way to buy if you're considering one. So thanks to WeCreat for sending this bundle over so we could get a look at it. Thank you for watching, and big thanks to everyone who supports the channel, whether with channel memberships or by using the link in the description. If you liked this episode, give it a thumbs up and maybe subscribe so you don't miss new ones. Well, 3D printing friends, that's about all the time we have for this one, and now that we're at the end, let's go cut and/or engrave something cool.